Hi, my name is Gadd Danno, and I am an internet survival guru. If you live in one of the colder regions of America, then heating your home is going to be right up there with food and water for surviving. If you're interested in off-grid heating, then stay tuned because this video is for you. Now you might wonder why I call wood and coal the twin titans of homestead survival heating. Well, let me tell you why. Because wood you can often scrounge yourself if it happens to be growing on your property or nearby, and it's renewable, so it could last you indefinitely as long as you've got a nice set of tools. I did all my wood cutting and splitting with tools that I bought on the recommendation of Wrangler Star's Hard Times Survival Kit, and I'll link to that video. And I cut about 5 cords of wood without a bit of electricity for cutting or splitting the wood. I used a chainsaw for cutting the rounds, and the chainsaw, you may lose access to that in hard times. You can get a 2-man crosscut saw if you've got a helping hand, or you can use an axe, which would be a lot harder. And the chainsaw fuel you can always have, it costs so little. I probably cut all 5 cords with about 4 or 5 gallons of gasoline. So you could always put a reserve gas tank with 5 or 10 gallons and know that you've got enough gas to cut next year's firewood. So you can at least have a year's warning of when you're going to be cut off. And like I said, at this point I've got next year's wood ready to go, so next year's taken care of, and if I had that reserve gas I'd have another year. You could have probably about 2 years at least. If you cut more wood you could have even more than that. Wood should be burned probably within 3 or 4 years, or it starts rotting. Probably ideally within 2 or 3 years, or maybe 1 to 3 years is probably the prime time to burn it. And past that you're going to get losing fuel value. The wood deteriorates. Coal is the most durable of all. It's been underground for thousands and thousands of years, and it doesn't deteriorate in the elements. Rain doesn't harm it. Your only limit to storing it is how much land or buildings you have to store your coal in. And you could easily store years and years of fuel. I mean, there's no limit. You could have 10, 20, 30 years if you have the space and the money and the means to transport it, or to hire a trucker to dump it off. There's no limit. So coal, it'd be a great fuel. It's higher BTUs than wood, so you get longer burn times. And other advantages of coal: if you're injured, there's no cutting and splitting to be done if you've got the coal supply. I mean, it's in small manageable pieces. You would manage to heat your home even if you had to go outside and get it, probably. And so if you're older, or if you ever get injured, it would be great to have some years of coal just laid up in case you're not able to do your wood processing. Some places some places just aren't close enough to coal mines. I mean, good places to be are in the Northeast surrounding Pennsylvania. I think coal miners in Kentucky, Virginia, they've got a very high quality bituminous coal. Pennsylvania has the highest BTU per weight coal, if you're lucky to be living around Pennsylvania. If you're in the western states, it's typically a lower quality coal that you can get in North Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, Utah, Colorado. And then a lot of other states, it's not close enough, but you're maybe in the Pacific Northwest, or you're in a forested area with hardwoods or with pine woods, and you can just get your own heat that way. So basically, no matter where you live, you can get either wood or coal. It's difficult to produce enough electricity to heat your home. It's very difficult to store a lot of propane. You can store heating oil, you can store wood, and you can store coal. It's the most durable of them all. You can store basically indefinitely outside or in a sheltered building. Propane, we're also limited because the kind of tanks they install in residential lots are small and don't hold that much, and typically you get to pay a renter's fee on the tank as a privilege of using the propane heating service, delivery service. So it's really the worst of them all. Now, it would be possible to stockpile heating oil, but the furnaces are really dependent on electricity to burn it, and so it's really not as good in a grid down scenario. You'd basically have to have some kind of independent power system to be able to power your oil burning furnace. But you could store a lot of heating oil, and it's more durable than gasoline. You can probably keep the stuff 8 or 10 years and it'll keep burning just fine, maybe even more than that. So now, while our power grids are up and the infrastructure is in place, it's great to have a natural gas furnace. Is about the cheapest utility heat. To have electricity or heating oil, propane is about the most expensive and the worst. I don't recommend it, but that's why they call it propane, because it's very painful on your wallet, and it's also painful when you can't get the guy to come out and fill your tank because you're running low and there's snow everywhere and they can't get in, or there's too much of a demand and you're on the waiting list. So, but it's still good to have some kind of a, infrastructure tied heating system that you can run when you're not in your home. Wood and coal, you have to be there or your pipes are going to freeze, or you have to be there, your house is going to get cold. You have to be there in a way for fire safety, because if anything went wrong, if no one's there, the house is going to go up in flames. So I like to use the natural gas furnace when I'm not here, when I have to be out of town for several days or just a day or a number of hours. I burn out the stove and then I run natural gas. And we're lucky to have natural gas out here. Previously to that, we had heating oil. That said, there are stoker coal units where you can fill up a hopper bin of a smaller pebble-like coal that can be fed consistently into a burning area, and those systems can be electronically controlled, where you can heat your house when you're not there, and it'll maintain a very precise temperature. And I think some of the Amish coal stoves have a cartridge system where you can kind of load up a hopper that burns slowly without any electronics at all. I think the problem there is it only works with the anthracite coal. Some of the other coals, you could get a fire in your hopper. So if you have anthracite coal, they do have some systems that will burn for extended periods when you're not around. Now, when you're choosing a stove, there are a couple of directions you can go. If you want a really nice stove, some of them work very well. You get a refinished antique stove. Some of those are more efficient. There was more technology going into designing coal stoves 150 years ago than there is now. So some of them were better made with better technology than what you can buy today. And that's especially true with the base burner anthracite coal burning stoves. So if you're going to burn anthracite, you can get an old stove, or I recommend, if not, get something from an Amish company. Yes, Machines, Harmon. Just search for Amish coal stoves, or check out all the options on NEPA Crossroads. Search that in your Google and you'll find a discussion forum that has all kinds of reviews on many different stoves and furnaces. typically a stove, you might run in your living room, and a furnace is going to go in your basement. For wood stoves, it isn't such a bad option to go to TSC or Menards or whatever your hardware store, your big box, maybe Home Depot, Lowe's, Menards, and they have some decent wood-burning stoves. There are wood gasifier stoves, and they are very expensive, and my guess is they're also more complicated and more prone to failure, so it's just a fancier stove, more things can go wrong. So I probably would steer clear of a wood gasifier stove for extended off-grid use. But you can get some pretty good soapstone stoves, some fancy wood-burning stoves that get efficiencies, I think, in the 75 to 80% range. So I guess that's about all for my discussion on wood and coal theory and application. Stay tuned for my next video where I'll be going over my particular stove, which can burn wood and coal. And if you liked this video and you found it helpful, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. Thanks.